Hey, it's Brian Martin, and I'm watching Hello Okanagan in Vernon.
Hey Peter, who's our special guest on the show today?
Hey buddy, yes, today we have two guests, the past mayor of Vernon and present councilman Akbal Mund, and the mayor of Kelowna, Colin Basran.
What's up everybody? I'm David Scarlatescu and I'm here at my place in the Fig in Vernon, British Columbia, a local restaurant. And here with my buddy,
Peter Kaz. I'm here in my new makeshift home office since this whole COVID-19 took over the world. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm loving the groovy purple lights there, blue
Yeah,
lights.
I had to bring it up a notch.
Yeah,
Thanks to
definitely.
Remix Productions for that one. When you're not working at the Fig, when you're at home alone or with your girlfriend or whatever, what have you been watching? What have you been binge watching, or what have you been playing or doing with all that downtime?
Well, Peter, when I get home, I've actually been really getting into the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance on Netflix. It's been
Yes.
super, super cool to watch.
Yes.
Really to kind of see. I didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s. I was born in 98, which is the season of The Last Dance. So it's really
You're a
cool to
young
kind of
punk.
see. Yeah. Really cool to see kind of what was happening during that era, and such a wonderful era of basketball. Kind of saddens me to know I missed it, but
It was incredible. I remember it because I lived through it, watching those games on TV. It was amazing. A couple of the bands that I was in, we were touring around certain times when the Bulls were playing, but we just, with timing or tickets were sold out or whatever it was. But I remember watching a lot of those. And the cool part, and I really appreciate Netflix for doing this, is they're not giving us one a week. They're giving us two shows a week. Because
yeah.
just when you're getting into it, when that little cliffhanger ends, you're like, woohoo, I get to watch the next one right now. But then there's another cliffhanger you do have to wait for a week. But it's fascinating. I'm really in love with that show. It's awesome.
What about
Been
you, man?
watching-
What are you watching? What are you currently obsessed with?
I was just going to say, The Witcher actually is
Okay.
a show that I really got into. It's mind blowing because it's not linear. It jumps around at different time frames, I guess. And it's a really cool show. The first episode kind of plays with your mind. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to get into this, but then it starts coming along. But it's a great show, and I'm happy to hear that they got picked up for season 2. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of being older than you, because I was around during the Michael Jordan era. My wife and I, we were just chatting about glasses, because I do wear reading glasses, and I do actually now at the point where I actually need glasses, believe it or not. And I think I was talking to Mitchell, our director, about this too today, that I remember when we were walking through Chapters once a few years ago, they got the rack of the reading glasses. So I thought, hey, I wonder what I look like wearing glasses, little pair that I threw on there. And I'm like, oh, wow, like the whole world lit up. Like I couldn't believe how much clearer everything was. So I took them off because I wanted to see, these must be like $80. Like, I don't know what these things would cost. And then right when I turned the glasses sideways to look at the tag, I realized I can't see that small font. So I grabbed another pair of glasses to read that. So the light bulb went off, time to wear reading glasses. So going into that, I want to chat with you about video games, because my son's been playing Fortnite.
Right.
And when I was growing up, we had one joystick and a couple of buttons. And then later on, Nintendo 64 was, my thing, where it was a bunch of extra buttons, but you can manage. Now, like my kid, holy cow, man, he's got like this, lit up keyboard, and all 5 fingers are just moving around constantly. He's got a mouse that he's constantly clicking and moving around and talking with his friends, and I'm just blown away. I mean, again, I go back to the one joystick, 2 buttons. Pew, 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 pew. Like it was so much simpler back then. What did you get into when you were growing up?
So I had an Xbox growing up and everything. So just playing, I wasn't playing a lot of shooter games or anything, but definitely played a little bit of FIFA. Loved the soccer, some 2K, some basketball in there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not super coordinated with the fancy controllers and the keyboard. The PC gamers are really impressive to watch because it really is athletic to be able to do that many things at once. And I'm seeing the new thing that just came out is the foot mouse. It's a mouse for your feet, so you can click more and do more with all your limbs.
That's insane. So it's like drumming in a way.
Oh, completely.
Because
Yeah, you got to have some crazy coordination for that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, speaking of which, Formula One, they got their esports online on the television. I saw it on TSN a couple of days ago that
oh, cool.
They're actually playing F1 Formula One racing on video games, but I guess some of them have like real souped up sets. One guy's built, or he bought it obviously, but it's like a race car seat, kind of like what I'm sitting in, but it's enclosed with a massive curved screen, and he's got his foot pedals and his gear shift and everything. And there was a video him in competition, and his daughter walked by to see what he was doing, and she stepped on the extension cord and the screen went black.
Oh no.
But they counted it. I mean, it doesn't matter, they said. The rules are whatever happens at home, right? So apparently they're taking stats and everything. So it's cool to see that. And with the quality that we're at with video games these days, it actually looks like you're watching a real, race. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens when they come out with a more in-depth VR and everything. Like, will it even be safer to have like athletes that are doing like Formula One or NASCAR do video game version of it? I mean, you don't have the danger of death at that point, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to hear that there's certain soccer clubs, soccer leagues, I should say, and the NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA. They're getting more serious about how they're going to take that next step. I think we find out in about 10 days or so maybe by the next show or the show after that. And we actually are going to have a sports special that we're going to be presenting as well, with how teams in the BCHL and the Okanagan and minor sports and all that were affected with this, and where we're going to be at that time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some live sports. Hopefully they can manage that and figure it out. Obviously it won't be with fans, but a game's a game. You'll just be able to hear the coach yelling at the players he's here.
No doubt.
By the way, did you Destination BC has a new slogan. Have you seen it?
No. What is it?
I saw a commercial a couple of days ago. Destination BC's new hashtag the last few years they started it. It's hashtag Explore BC. So they're showing this wonderful, lake and mountains and scenery, and it says hashtag Explore BC, and then it was ... later. So they're obviously still telling people not to come out here. As we get close to Mother's Day, and then it's May long weekend. Obviously, a lot of Albertans and people from around BC love coming to the Okanagan, and some Americans. We're just basically telling them to stay home. I mean, even though we're going to start being allowed to take the next step by, going into certain businesses like clothing stores and restaurants are going to open with new stipulations and half the capacity. If we have tourists now coming in, we're going to be overwhelmed with more of a population. So that's why we're telling people, like, stay home, call it a staycation this summer, and we'll all see each other next year again.
Yeah. It's I don't know. There's definitely I feel lots of mixed emotions about it, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with things like tourism, especially this summer.
Yeah. And speaking of tourism, our show, Hello Okanagan, it's been doing phenomenally well with Cast the Net, so thank you, Cast the Net. And we're getting a lot of people asking about our theme song. And I just want to let people know that a good friend, Andrew Johns, wrote and produced our theme song, Hello Okanagan. And the cool thing is, he just put out a rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody called Coronavirus Rhapsody. So we're going to play a clip right now.
So you think you can stop me and just shake my hand? So you think you can hang out and not make a plan? Oh, baby, can't do this to me, baby. You just gotta stay home, just gotta stay home with my fever.
So if you want to see the rest of that, click the link below. You'll see the full video that Andrew Johns did. So good work, Andrew. Hey everyone, we're thrilled to have on the show two guests today. One is the mayor of Kelowna, Colin Basran, and Vernon City Councilman, who was their past mayor, Akbal Mund. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Oh,
Isolation's gone okay. I mean, we're all we're all facing the same sort of things, and it's been a challenge, but it's also been good in different ways too. It's a mixed bag. Certainly the time spent with my family has been amazing. And you know what? I'm probably more fit than I've ever been because I am running regularly and getting regular exercise, dragging the kids behind me too when I can. So I think everyone in the house is about as fit as they've ever been. I know my wife is running like crazy as well. But yeah, I think everybody's just itching to have this over and to get back to some semblance of normal. But I think the reality is that is not happening anytime soon.
what about you, Akbal?
Yeah, it's, I guess I'm surprised at how kind everybody's been through this, Peter. There's a lot of people out there still working and a lot of things going on, for different businesses. Yet the general public's taken it and they've been really good about what's going on. They've shown more patience, because everything takes longer. So, it's in a good way. I think, this will be a learning tool for a lot of people to say, you know what, don't always have to be in a hurry. Like, we are in our lives. Take your time, relax. You're going to get there. You'll get what you need. I think the general public has been great through this. So.
I couldn't agree more. The kindness has been phenomenal, and it's good to see a lot of people coming together in a time like this and really showing the good that humans and humanity has to offer. So that being said, with everything going on, what's both of your take on on what the tourism industry is going to look like for the summer?
Go ahead, Your Worship.
Yeah, I guess that's a question everybody's asking right now, given the fact that we still don't know yet what Dr. Bonnie Henry and the Premier of the province, John Horgan, are going to allow. What I can say is that, certainly by the looks of it, we're going to see a lot more local visitors to a lot of our parks, beaches, and amenities. And so we need to be prepared for that. But in terms of, how long until international markets or even, provincial borders are open to the point where they're encouraged. Obviously, they're not closed, but, we have premiers of Alberta and BC saying, please don't travel to each other's provinces right now. Until, the borders in our country open up and until the international markets open up, yeah, it's going to be slow. And I think we're going to have to really try and get those to get in their car and go on an old-fashioned road trip, perhaps, once that's allowed to happen. But I think the focus is really going to be on shopping local, supporting local, visiting local, and then it'll expand from there as, things open up.
No doubt.
And I agree with the mayor's comments that there'll be a lot of staycations this year. That also means a lot of travel through the Okanagan. I mean, we can go to Penticton, we can go to Kelowna, we can go to Kamloops, Revelstoke. There's a lot of places in the interior that we can travel to do things. I don't see the international tours coming this year at all. We can plan for next year, but it'll be a lot of people staying at home, doing the things that the Okanagan has to offer, and it's a lot out there. Let's go out, and this is our opportunity to enjoy it without any tourists coming into town. So
I think one of the other points that I want to make is that, if you could travel anywhere in the province, it would be likely either the Lower Mainland or the Okanagan. And same thing goes for anywhere in Canada. If you're going to visit anywhere, I think most people would want to, come to the Okanagan. So we're well situated if and when things come back, particularly the domestic travel market, that if anyone in Canada is going to travel anywhere, if anyone is going to still retire anywhere, it's the Okanagan. So, you know, I'm sure glad that I'm the mayor of Kelowna, and you know, and not some city perhaps where they've really got to fight tooth and nail to get people to visit when they don't have the amenities that we do here in the Okanagan. So, you know, I've heard it time and time again that, man, I'm sure glad I live here in the Okanagan because we're well situated if we capitalize on it to really get ahead of the curve in this particular instance when it comes to economic recovery.
Yep.
We were just previously mentioning how Destination BC's new slogan is "Explore BC ... later." So we'll get those people again in 2021.
You know what? And it should be Explore the Okanagan because, again, where else would you want to go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'll probably be a banner year in 2021.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you guys, what's been the most common question that you guys have been receiving from your within your own areas?
Go ahead, Akbal, if you want to take that one first.
Sure. I guess a lot of it is what spaces are open within the community so people can still get out. And, you know, sometimes it becomes very trying. You know, you got to be careful. Obviously, the health and safety of the general public is key. And we had an incident up at our Greater Vernon Athletics Park where it was open, and on a Friday night, 40 to 50 people gathered on the field to play some sports. Well, you know, we have to take the appropriate measures and then close it down. Not that we are really concerned about the people who walk around the track. We weren't. Until this day, even though we closed off, we still weren't worried about those people. But you have to try to control the spread. And I know it's hard for some people to understand that, especially maybe some of the younger generation. But, you know, you take those precautions because that's what you have to do for the entire community, not just for, you know, a select group of residents who choose not to follow those. So it's trying, but at the same time, that's a question we get a lot at the city is, you know, when you can open provincial parks. Obviously, that falls on the provincial government. We just follow those mandates that we get. But most of our trails in Vernon, our parks in Vernon, we have ambassadors in the park right now. So we just remind people, hey, keep your distance and we'll get through this.
So, yeah, there's a number of questions I think that are quite common. The first one mostly is, when are you going to close parks and beaches? And the answer is always no, we have no intention to, but depending on, you know, how the spread is at the time or how people are adhering to the physical distancing order, you know, we may be forced to. But right now, so far, so good. I think another question we get is, when are you going to allow businesses to reopen that have been ordered closed? That is not, and that is a common misconception that people have, is that the municipalities are the ones who have closed these businesses, when again, the orders have come down from the provincial government and Dr. Bonnie Henry, and we will continue to take her lead on that. But a lot of people are saying, when are you going to influence that? And we will, you know, heed her advice. And then, you know, the other question is, why aren't you doing more to break up gatherings on you know, in parks and on beaches? Because people aren't adhering to the physical distancing. And I guess my reaction to that is, well, yes, if they're there for a long time, perhaps we'll, you know, our RCMP or our bylaw will be able to. But at the end of the day, we can't rely on RCMP and bylaw to make sure that common sense is being followed. We all play a role in this. We all need to be playing our part, and that means following the orders. We can't always have, you know, bylaw or police enforce everything. This is a shared responsibility, and so I would just again ask everybody to continue to follow Dr. Henry's orders.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, whether it's COVID related or not, is that a lot of people don't seem to be educated on what a municipality does versus what a provincial or federal government does. And I think that's, I definitely don't envy the position that both of you guys are in for that reason, because I can't imagine how difficult it's been. I mean, Akbal, for yourself being mayor and now council, you're probably getting the same things, and same with you, Colin. It's not easy answering the same things over and over again, knowing that a lot of time there's not much you can do about it.
Well, not only in this instance, but typically, and you know, I'd be curious to know Akbal's thoughts, but you know, because we're the level of government closest to the people, and we don't spend half of our time in either Victoria or Ottawa, yeah, there is a misconception that we have the ability to control most things, when in actuality you have people who represent you in Victoria who are the person to go to for provincial issues, and same with your MPs in Ottawa. And people just automatically want to assume your city council can fix your issue when oftentimes a third of the cases we can, but there are two other levels of government that are responsible for a lot of things that people often blame us for.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Mr. Mayor. It's difficult, and I've always used the analogy that people sometimes don't believe when we tell them there is other levels of government there, and I use the analogy, the sports analogy, where I said, well, I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and you may be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. We can yell and scream at each other, but in the end, we're passionate about hockey. It's the same. I understand people sometimes get upset and they're passionate about the city. So am I. But, just because their questions and answers are different than my questions and answers doesn't mean that we have to fight. And, we can disagree to disagree. But at the same time, I'm just telling you the facts. And sometimes they don't want to believe those facts. I don't get into arguments about it. I said, well, that's what it is, and you don't have to believe me if you don't want. But most people in general, they come to it and they go, you know what? Okay, I'll contact our MLA or MP. So it is difficult. I think because we live in the communities that we live in, people want to approach us and go, yeah, come on, you got to do something about this. And when you want to tell about, no, this is how it actually works. And they go, well, no. But at the same time, you just go and, say, well, here, I can even give you the number, and go ahead, give them a call. And they're very good. I mean, we have two good, Eric Foster, MLA, is very good. And so is Mel Arnold, our MP. So they're very approachable. And I just feel that people think that we can solve everything at a municipal level. And sometimes that's not the way.
Totally. So that being said, then what is your biggest concern for the small business community moving forward?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Well, I mean, they are numerous. I would say, how are they going to continue to pay their rent, depending on how much longer this goes and how much longer some of them are ordered closed. Then it's, what does the new reality look like when they're allowed to reopen? I'm assuming physical distancing is going to have to be strictly adhered to. So if you're a restaurant, you're losing a half or more of your tables likely. And so, those are huge concerns for sure. So, the other big concern I'm hearing is, the federal and provincial financial programs are well-intentioned, particularly for businesses, it's not flowing as quickly as perhaps as I know, these businesses need. And so I think that's a big issue right now, is that they have bills to pay, they have staff to keep on payroll, and the financial assistance is not flowing down to them the way it was initially planned. And I know I know patience is required, but people are running out of patience. And I can certainly understand, though, from the government side that we're trying to implement things that we had no infrastructure for. Nobody could have predicted this. And so I see things on one side, but also I understand the impatience on the other, because real lives and real problems are at stake here.
Yeah, and my concern obviously is for the small business as well. You have hairstylists, hair salons, dentists, doctors. I think the new normal for the time being, person-to-person contact, will be either a face shield, wearing a mask, full gown when you're cutting someone's hair, until we get a vaccine anyways. And I think I'm hoping that the Dr. Henry comes out within the next week or so here to say, what is the plan to reopen all businesses? And this is what we expect. Yeah, restaurants is probably going to be 50%. So for some restaurants, that still might not be good enough. But if they can open, I'd like to see every business open. Just practice the physical distancing, put what procedures you need to put in place, depending on what type of business you have. If you're a hardware store, that's pretty easy to do. Have the 6 feet, put the glass up for your cashiers. I think those glass partitions that are up, they're plexiglass in grocery stores and banks, and they're going to stay there forever. I don't think you need to remove them. Actually, it's a good idea to have those up. So there is some good coming out of this, very little, but I'm afraid of the U.S. and the way the spread is down there. When does the border open? I don't see the border opening till after summer. So, you know, I don't know what that does for people, but I don't think they've taken it as seriously as we have here in British Columbia. British Columbia's done a great job. If anybody remembers, back when this started, BC was on top of the list for number of cases across Canada. And, you know, look at Ontario, Quebec, and even Alberta, how many cases they have compared to BC now. I think our health officials in British Columbia have done a great job, and, you know, credit them, because I know a lot of people are upset that we're not fully reopened. But I mean, just look where we were 2 months ago to where we are now compared to everybody else. We've done a great job here in BC.
And finally, I wanted to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on the IPE canceling? Actually, they just had a press release saying that they were canceling.
They had to cancel. I mean, that's a big event. I mean, Peter, as you know, any big event. I mean, they're talking about hockey going back, and you probably heard this, but no fans, right? You can't have big events until we get a vaccine. There's not going to be any kind of big event until we get a vaccine, and I think people are understanding that. So, you know, anything that's coming up in the next 5-6 months probably will get canceled. Any major event will get canceled, and who knows how fast the vaccine is coming. I'm hearing early signs September, October. So, you know, that's quick. That's 8 months from when this started. That's not overly concerning to me that we have a vaccine in 8 months. Depending on how they test it. And that's another key, is how are they going to test it? If you look into the history, which I have, vaccines sometimes that actually work 100% usually take 2 to 3 years. So this is sort of like a rush job on a vaccine. Will it work? Probably, but is it the right way to do it? I'm not sure. So
That's my biggest concern as well, actually, is the fact that it is being rushed out, and that it is going to look like something that they're going to force people to take if you want to leave the country or travel anywhere. So if they're going to be forcing vaccinations, I'm with you, Akbal. I'd like to make sure that I'd like to know and make sure that it is properly tested, because it is going to be a rushed out product with everything going on right now.
Oh.
So the IPE is just one of many on a long list of great events in our region that have now had to be canceled. Of course, being the mayor of Kelowna, a couple of weeks from now, we were supposed to be holding the Memorial Cup, and that was going to be an incredible showcase for our community in the region. I mean, yeah, the list is just way too long, and it's really unfortunate. But at the end of the day, again, this is a health crisis, and we could just imagine what would have happened had those events continued, and that's certainly not what we want. And yeah, I just, my heart breaks for those organizers and the operators of these events who have, had to shell out, money. There's already sunk costs that they may not recover.
And all the time that they put into this as well.
Totally. Yeah. And so anyway, it's just unfortunate, for a number of different reasons, for sure.
I just hated seeing online some of the online bullies that were, saying it's so far ahead. Why are you canceling now? Things might change 3-4 months from now. They don't understand that we're all taking advice from the higher ups, and the large events and sporting events were the first things to go. They're going to be the last things to come back. And I doubt anything over 200-300 people is going to happen in 2020.
Yeah, for sure. Tough to say. Councillor Mund, remind me, if the NHL does come back, are your Montreal Canadiens in a playoff spot right now? I can't remember.
Hey, you said you were going to hold the Memorial Cup, right? Unfortunately, you didn't. You got it back for next year, though, apparently, correct?
No, that's not correct, but I suspect we will bid for it again in the coming years, which is too bad. But obviously, I would assume we'll be looked upon favorably given the circumstances. But no, unfortunately, we don't just automatically get to host the next one. We'll still have to go through the process, and we'll see where things go from there.
Yeah, and all these events being canceled, what people need to understand is there's a lot of time and effort and organization that's involved. So, those people saying online that why are they canceling now? Because there's a lot of preparation and organization and getting the vendors in and getting the suppliers in and getting the contracts all signed up. That's a lot of work. I know because I do Fantastic here in Vernon, and there's a lot of work done. And if you wanted to try to cancel that 3 weeks before, boy, you wasted a lot more money. So, you have to make those decisions early enough that it's not costing these nonprofit organizations, because that's what they are, money.
Yeah, well said.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilman, for all of your time and being part of Hello Okanagan.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, David.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, smash a like.
And make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on post notifications to hear about everything we are doing.
So, local news, Okanagan news. I mean, that's what we're all about. Really excited and happy with what everyone has been doing on how everybody has been shopping local, helping local people, coming up with new initiatives, and just trying to get through this. And a lot of people are going online, obviously, that haven't been on before. I had mentioned in the last show that down in Penticton, JCI had their gala online for the first time. And I heard that it went phenomenally well. So kudos to all those guys that supported them online and were there for them. And David, I think we talked last week about golf courses. If you've been out, a lot more are opening up now.
Well, Peter, my golf game is definitely below par, no pun intended, but or I guess above par for that matter, but the bad way. But yes, no, I've heard from lots of people that the golf courses are the new VIP hottest event to try and get into right now. It's pretty difficult to get a tee time in last minute.
And you know what else has been difficult? The Starlight Drive in Enderby opened up last week, I think it was. And
really
apparently I think they're sold out like 10 days in advance or something. My wife went online last week and got us tickets for this weekend. So I'm so excited to get out of the house. And I think they're showing Sonic the Hedgehog and 1917 that I'm really excited to see. So we're finally getting out of the house and, going into our backyard and having fun and going to the drive-in like we used to do. So that's really cool that they've opened up. So kudos to them as well for taking all the new mandates with the concession stand, the washrooms, separating every car into every second spot. And there's still room for you to bring your lawn chair and, pop a seat and all that. But they do frown upon you going into other people's car lots, let's call them. And the farmers markets all over the Okanagan are open. I'm really pumped about that as well.
Yeah, really exciting to see the farmers markets back, especially with a lot of big factory food farms being closed now because of outbreaks. It'll be good and maybe allow some more customers and local businesses to actually maybe support some of their local farmers and local food producers at the local farmers market because it is wonderful to support local.
Yeah, and you know what, too? One of the things I love about the Okanagan is the amount of sexy cars. Every summer, and they're always in the garage for about 10 months out of the year, especially after they sweep up all the gravel and the weather's nice. They bring out all the really cool Lambos and Ferraris and, old Mercedes-Benz and Porsches and even the hot rods and all these really cool cars that, people have been working and slaving over to not only rebuild or maintain, and then the newer cars that they just put the dust cover on it for 10 months until they could take it out. Really happy to see a lot of those guys out there, and there's motorcycles. But I just read that the Kelowna RCMP are cracking down on excessive noisemakers, and apparently the motorcyclists are the ones getting the majority of the fines.
Yeah, I mean, I ride a motorcycle too, so it's interesting to hear that for sure. But I mean, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the excessive noise-making motorcycles. I've had a lot of people tell me I should straight pipe my bike, but I've decided I just like the amount of noise that it makes right now. I don't need to make it any louder. So, yeah, I can understand it can be disruptive and everything, especially, for example, if we're trying to shoot videos at the beach or something like that, and you hear one of those rockets go by there and make lots of loud noise with our microphones.
That's true. I remember that one. And a new friend of mine, really excited that I got to be introduced, became e-friends now, like we're all doing online right now, to a lady down in Penticton named Allison Marking. She started a she put basically a red bin outside of her house. And people are kindly dropping whatever they want off and picking up things. So they're kind of trading. She's calling it the Okanagan barter system. So people, again, are just walking by her house. They see something in there that they like, but they got to put something else in there to kind of trade for it. And the cool part about this is it's becoming an outlet for businesses to promote themselves. So here's a girl that just took another initiative to, you know, get people to support other people locally down in Penticton. That was really cool. I'd like to see a lot more of that happening.
Yeah, definitely. That's lots of cool things going on in the Okanagan, especially, and that's, I guess, the benefit of being in a small town community where everybody is super supportive of each other and making sure that everybody can stay positive and keep going forward.
And now let's talk about the new normal. We're pretty close to going into phase 1 or phase 2, allowing people to go out into certain shops, maybe some malls opening up, definitely the restaurants, most likely at 50% with a certain amount of space between everybody, everyone wearing masks and gloves. To me, that's going to be the new norm. After 9/11, you started seeing a heightened security. You started seeing more people at the airport holding rifles. They started having air marshals on flights. I mean, everything changed after 9/11 around airplanes and airports. And I see now that people walking around wearing masks or having gloves are not going to be looked at differently. I think it's going to become the new norm.
Yeah, no, it's I'm definitely really curious to see what the regulations for reopening are going to be, especially around restaurants, because the rumors I've heard have been, I'm not going to lie, a little bit ridiculous to expect restaurant owners to take everybody's temperature when they come into your establishment. I think is a little bit mind-boggling for me.
They're doing that in Asia. So the hostess or one of the servers will be outside in full gear as well, taking their measurements on their forehead before they're allowed in. They're doing that, and I think that's where they're getting the ideas from. Yeah,
and I'll be honest, if that's the case with how it's going to be, I'll tell you right now that a good chunk of restaurants are just going to stay with this takeout and delivery model, because to hire an extra employee just to do that, I can't see that being feasible for any business whatsoever. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what reopening does look like and what they come up with, because I will be honest, a lot of the rules and shutdown doesn't exactly make a lot of sense to me, how some things are allowed and some things aren't. I'm not really sure how a lot of it has made sense and where it's really coming from. So I'm going to be really curious to see what they're deciding when they decide to reopen things.
And I think the malls will open up and clothing stores will open up and hardware stores. All these type of stores are going to open up again. But again, there'll be a mandate. There'll be a certain amount of people allowed inside. You got to be this many feet away from someone. And a lot of them that have aisles will just have one way this way, one way that way. They're just going to have to go one direction down each aisle like they're doing at grocery stores and just keep it at that. Yeah. And I think the new norm that we've seen already is what we're doing. Working from home, I think that's going to be a big game changer as well. There's lots of guys and that I know throughout North America that used to fly very often to have 1 or 2 meetings every second or third day. Now they're doing 3, 4, 5 meetings in one day without even having to leave their house. Yes, you do have to do a handshake deal, and that might change too. It might be a fist bump in the future, but you do still need to see somebody, especially if you got a product you need to show them or whatever. But I do see people shipping that product maybe and still working from home. People are seeing their staff being very productive from working at a home and considering letting go half of the office space that they're paying rent for because it's not needed if a certain portion of their staff can work from home.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure as well. I mean, I've definitely heard from a lot of business owners that, you know, whether they've let a bunch of staff go and they're having to be more hands-on, and the profitability and the definitely the productivity has increased and skyrocketed. It'll be interesting to see if the work from home model will be sustainable or if we'll go back. It'll also be interesting to see if the less employee model is sustainable and we'll go back, because yeah, it's great that CERB and unemployment insurance has come up for all these people that have been let go. And we know that a lot of the layoffs are temporary, but I am really curious to see how many of the layoffs will be permanent, because as what happens in any recession, businesses trim back and they cut back on expenses. And one of the most expensive expenses is people. So yes, their business can't flourish without them, but we'll see what happens from an unemployment perspective as things do start to open up again. Now, Peter, back to the malls, actually. I'm not sure how it is in Kelowna and Penticton and Kamloops, but I know specifically in Vernon, the mall is actually open with a few stores that are still operating in there. It's just a good chunk of the stores have decided to close down. So there are definitely a few stores that are still open. So if you are still interested in supporting some of the stores that you like in the mall, definitely suggest you and urge you to go down there and do that.
And going back to office spaces, I think the open spaces and the bullpens may be adjusted as well. So there is a little bit more protection between people, maybe build more offices, or again, half the people can work in offices, the other half work from home. Speaking of restaurants, going back to that for a second, what do you think of salad bars and buffets? Do you think the sneeze guard is going to be there to still protect our food, or do you think that's going to go by the wayside?
Yeah, Peter, it's going to be difficult to see with that one too. I mean, it's going to be all about comfort of people, as well as obviously the mandates coming forward provincially and federally. So yeah, I feel for any Chinese buffet, any buffet in general that is making a lot of their revenue from their large dining areas and being able to utilize that buffet. So we'll see where that happens. I mean, I'm really hoping we will get to the point where we're back to that. My biggest, I guess, issue with all of this is, as a business, you still have to have a permit for interior health to operate. So there are extreme health precautions, and especially buffets have to go through to even have their health permit to stay open. So yeah, I guess that concerns me, that everyone seems to forget that as soon as a pandemic is on the rise, that restaurants and businesses have to be clean to hold these permits. So it's not like they're just dirty all the time, and because they're not following the extra safe precautions, they're filthy. So yeah, I will be curious and interested to see what happens with buffets and salad bars, especially.
I don't think that's going to be a health issue with the restaurants not abiding by the health code. It's going to be more with the general public.
I know what I mean is totally, but that's my point, is like the mindset of people thinking that there's filth and disease inside of restaurants, when in fact it's, if anything, like I think a restaurant's going to be cleaner than a grocery store any day of the week. Yet people have no problem sitting in lineups outside of Costco, going into the grocery stores, touching the same products that other people have touched, standing right next to somebody. Like, these are things that, again, they start to get my wheels turning, and they make me think a little bit more. So yeah, we'll see. It will be, the personal block will not be from the provincial or the federal government. It will be from people and what they feel is safe for themselves. But yeah, I don't know how, like I said, a buffet or a salad bar is any less safe than it always has been.
Exactly. And with employees themselves, I kind of jumped onto Indeed to kind of see, what's out there. Because I did notice when all this went down, there was less postings, obviously, because no one was hiring. They were letting people go. But right now, there's a lot of online positions. Even Amazon is really stepped up their game and are looking for a ton more people to assist them with everything from, responding to reviews and writing descriptions of certain items and this and that. And I think that might be something that we're going to be seeing a lot more of again, is people are going to start figuring out how they can do their business online, or a portion of their business online, and hire somebody that's capable of doing that. The future is definitely changing. I mean, there is going to be a new normal. People hate hearing that. They hate hearing the word pivoting. We've been saying that forever, but we all had to. They hate hearing the word new normal. But there's a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3, and we're not used to any of those. So it is a new normal for us, and that's where we're heading into. But to the up and up, I guess, because things are looking a little brighter. Yeah,
Peter, I mean, I think what people need to realize, and business owners especially, is that this has been happening for, the past 100 years. We've had issues with recessions and pandemics, whatever it's been, and there has been good as well as obviously the tough and the bad that's come out of it, but there's been so much good that's come out of it. And meaning, obviously, when businesses are able to pivot, like you were saying, and find new things that were maybe going wrong with their business that they were able to overlook now, and trying new things that they wouldn't have thought of before. And it also allows the world to shift as far as technologically and how we consume information, how we actually live our lives. We go through shifts. We go through periodic shifts every few decades, every a few times a century, whatever it is. So this is just one of those that, you know, our kids and grandchildren will be reading about in history books.
Definitely. I don't know, one thing that's really been taking off even more than it already has been, one of the biggest companies in the world, Amazon. I have so many cardboard boxes in my garage that I have to break down for the next recycle run. Hopefully, hopefully everyone's doing well, and we will see you next again on episode 4 of Hello Okanagan. Mind you, we're really excited to introduce an old friend. Her name is Bethany Brown. She actually used to be from Coldstream, actually, and she moved at a young age to Vancouver for soccer. She's going to mention that, and we're going to talk to her about some of the roles that she got, and some of these are great shows that I'm a big fan of. We're talking Flash, Supernatural, The 100, Charmed, and many, many more. You're going to know her when you see her, guys. And I'm really looking forward to making a Comic-Con type of show for all our inner geek friends just like us.
Absolutely. I'm definitely excited. I've got my inner geek that's going to show and shine, and I'm stoked for that.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you guys next week. And, buddy, every week we do a virtual fist pump or something. I think we should get our glasses out this time, or a bottle of something. I got mine right here. You ready?
I've been sipping on my on mine right here too.
Well, I'm going to do a virtual toast with you, and I'm not afraid to be drinking Corona. So I'll be heading over and having the Okanagan wine with my wife shortly, but I'm going to finish this Corona. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Perfect. Cheers.
Hey guys, we always want to hear from you, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, or right here on YouTube. So I'm going to send this over to David. He's got a question for you.
All right, guys, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. So tell us, we started at the beginning with what we are binge watching and what we are enjoying. I want to know what you guys have been binge watching on Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu. Well, I guess that's in the States, but wherever you're watching, Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever. What are you binge watching right now? Let us know in the comments.